Commander Velthar stood before the massive window of his flagship, watching stars blur past in streams of light. His forearms rested behind his back, claws clicking against each other in a rhythm that other Kryn warriors knew meant he was thinking. The scales on his face bore scars from 300 years of war. Each mark told a story of victory. He had never known defeat. The door to the command deck slid open. A young officer rushed in, her skin still bright green without the fading that came with age. She stopped and bowed low, keeping her head down. "Commander Velthar, the High Council demands your presence immediately. Emergency status." Velthar turned his large head toward her. His yellow eyes studied her shaking hands. Fear, he could smell it in the air like acid. Whatever news she carried was bad enough to terrify even his own crew. "Speak plainly. What has happened?" The officer swallowed hard. 3 scout fleets have disappeared in Sector 7. No distress calls. No wreckage found. The 4th fleet returned, but, Commander, half their ships are gone. The survivors are in medical care. They refuse to speak about what they saw. Velthar felt something stir in his chest. Not fear. He had forgotten that feeling long ago. But curiosity, sharp and cold. In 3 centuries, nothing had made Coalition fleets go silent. The Coalition ruled most of the known galaxy. They had superior weapons, faster ships and shields that could stop almost anything. "Take me to the council chamber. Now." The meeting room held representatives from 20 different species. Velthar recognized most of them. The tall insect-like Vrix, the floating energy beings called the Lumen, the stone-skinned Korath. All of them looked worried. The head of the council, an ancient Vrix named Thelzar, gestured to the center of the room where a hologram appeared. "Commander Velthar, we called you because we need our best warrior. Look at this." The hologram showed a small blue planet circling a yellow star. Data scrolled beside it. Velthar read quickly. The planet was called Earth. The species living there called themselves humans. They were young by galactic standards, having only left their home planet 200 years ago. Their technology was primitive. Slower ships, weaker shields, weapons that threw metal instead of using energy beams. "This is what concerns the Council?" Velthar asked. "A primitive species with outdated technology?" Thelzar's antennae drooped. "Watch what happened to the 4th fleet." The hologram changed. It showed Coalition ships approaching a human space station. The recording came from a ship's external camera. Everything seemed normal at first. The Coalition ship sent the standard message demanding surrender. The human station went quiet for almost a minute. Then chaos erupted. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids and moons. They fired missiles and railguns. The weapons were slow compared to energy beams, but there were so many of them. The humans didn't try to disable ships or target specific systems. They aimed for maximum destruction. One human ship, already burning and breaking apart, deliberately crashed into a Coalition cruiser. The explosion took both vessels. "They killed themselves," Velthar said slowly. "On purpose." "That's not all," Thelzar replied. "Show him the boarding footage." The hologram switched to interior cameras. Coalition soldiers in powered armor moved through a damaged human ship. They expected wounded enemies begging for mercy. Instead, humans attacked them with simple ballistic weapons. One human, bleeding heavily from multiple wounds, kept fighting until a Coalition soldier finally killed him. The human had a small metal tag around his neck. The camera zoomed in on it. It read, "Sergeant Minho, never surrender." The council chamber fell silent. Velthar watched the recording 3 more times. Each viewing made something twist deeper in his mind. These humans fought like nothing he had seen before. Most species surrendered when defeat was certain. They valued survival over pride, but these creatures seemed to prefer death over giving up. "I want to speak with a human prisoner," Velthar said. The council members looked at each other. Thelzar clicked his mandibles together nervously. "We have one. Admiral Yuna. She commanded the defense station. We captured her when her ship lost power. She has been in a holding cell for 6 days." Velthar went to the detention level immediately. The guard showed him to a transparent cell where a human female sat on the floor. She was small compared to him, reaching maybe to his lower chest. Her black hair was tied back. Dark eyes watched him without any sign of fear. Most prisoners looked at the floor or begged for mercy. This one studied him like she was the one in control. "I am Commander Velthar of the Kryn Empire. You are Admiral Yuna of Earth," the human smiled. It was not a friendly expression. I know who you are. Your reputation spreads across many worlds, the undefeated commander. 300 years without a single loss. I read your species file. You are new to space travel. Your weapons are old designs. Your ships are slow. Yet you destroyed 40% of a coalition scout fleet. Velthar moved closer to the transparent barrier. Explain this to me. Una stood up slowly. She moved with the careful grace of someone who knew how to fight. Even imprisoned, even without weapons, she carried herself like a warrior. You want to know our secret? It's simple, Commander. We never stop. You can hurt us, kill us, destroy our ships and stations. We just keep coming. We have been fighting wars on our own planet for thousands of years. We fought each other over land, resources, ideas, and pride. We built weapons that could end all life on Earth, and we pointed them at ourselves for decades. We learned how to survive anything. Velthar felt his scales ripple. Among his people, that was a sign of unease. He controlled it quickly, but Una noticed. Her smile grew wider. You're already afraid, she said quietly. You just don't know it yet. I fear nothing. Then you're a fool. You should fear us. Because you just made a terrible mistake. You attacked Earth, you killed our people. And now every human alive has one single goal, make you pay for it. Velthar turned and walked away. Behind him he heard Una call out one more thing. 300 years undefeated, Commander. But that record ends now. As he returned to his ship, Velthar told himself the human was just trying to intimidate him with words. But something in her voice stayed with him. Certainty, not hope or bravado. Just cold certainty that she was right and he was wrong. He informed the council he would lead the subjugation fleet personally. 200 ships. The humans would see overwhelming force and surrender. It would be quick and clean. Standing on his command deck as the fleet prepared to jump to Earth's system, Velthar remembered Una's smile. For the first time in 300 years, he wondered if he had made a mistake. The fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 warships appeared in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of the human sun. Velthar watched the tactical display as sensors mapped the entire system. Mars had military installations, Jupiter's moons held supply depots, and Earth itself sat defended by orbital stations and patrol fleets. Send the standard message, Velthar ordered. Demand immediate surrender. All military vessels must power down weapons and shields. They have 1 hour to comply. His communications officer sent the message. Then they waited. The bridge crew stood ready at their stations. Everyone expected the humans would respond with questions or attempts to negotiate. That was how first contact usually went. Species tried to bargain, buy time, or find diplomatic solutions. 47 seconds passed in complete silence. Then every human ship, station, and platform opened fire at the same time. The tactical display lit up with thousands of incoming missiles and projectiles. No warning, no response to the surrender demand. Just instant coordinated violence, evasive maneuvers, raised shields. Velthar gripped the command console as his flagship shuddered from impacts. The human weapons were primitive but effective. Missiles carried nuclear warheads. Railguns fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Energy shields stopped most of them, but the sheer number made the shields flicker and drain. Coalition ships returned fire with energy beams that cut through human vessels with ease. Velthar watched 3 human destroyers explode within seconds. Good. They were learning that resistance was pointless. But then something happened that made his blood go cold. A damaged human cruiser, already venting atmosphere and listing badly, turned toward the coalition formation. It accelerated at full speed directly at his flagship. Warning alarms screamed. The tactical officer shouted that the human ship's reactor core was overloading. It's gonna ram us, someone yelled. Velthar's ship turned hard, engines straining. The human cruiser missed the flagship by less than 100 meters and struck a coalition destroyer instead. The explosion was massive. Both ships vanished in a ball of nuclear fire. Over 3,000 coalition crew died instantly. The humans had sacrificed 400 of their own people just to take out one enemy ship. They're insane, his second officer whispered. More human ships performed the same tactic. Small fighters loaded with explosives flew straight at coalition carriers. Human captains deliberately overloaded their reactors when damaged, turning their vessels into bombs. One human destroyer called Indomitable, commanded by someone named Minho, rammed a coalition battlecruiser head-on. The collision destroyed both ships completely. Belthar had fought berserker species who felt no pain. He had battled hive minds that valued individual lives at nothing. But those species fought that way because of biology or psychology beyond their control. These humans chose to die. They made the decision calmly and carried it out precisely. That was somehow worse. Pull back to defensive formation, Belthar ordered. Focus fire on their command ships. The coalition fleet regrouped and began systematically destroying human vessels. Superior firepower started to show. Human shields fell quickly under sustained beam weapons. Their slower ships couldn't escape once targeted. Within an hour, half the human fleet was destroyed or disabled. But the humans didn't retreat. Damaged ships kept fighting until they exploded. Pilots launched from destroyed carriers and small fighters and attacked alone. Belthar watched one pilot, a woman named Hana according to intercepted communications, guide her crippled fighter into a coalition carrier's launch bay. The explosion inside the bay caused a chain reaction that crippled the entire carrier. "Why won't they run?" his tactical officer asked. "They must know they cannot win." Belthar had no answer. Every military doctrine said that once a force lost more than 30% of its strength, it should retreat and regroup. The humans had lost 60%, yet they kept attacking with the same intensity as the battle's start. Coalition ships began boarding damaged human vessels to capture prisoners and intelligence. Belthar watched the live feeds from boarding teams. His soldiers, trained and armored, expected to find wounded enemies ready to surrender. Instead, humans fought in the corridors of their dying ships. They used simple guns that fired bullets. When those ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When they lost their knives, they used their bare hands. One feed showed a human male, identified as Doyun, fighting with a broken arm. He had been shot 3 times but continued throwing grenades and firing his weapon. It took 5 coalition soldiers to finally bring him down. Even then, dying, he tried to reach for a dropped gun. His last words, captured by the feed, were "Earth remembers." The battle lasted 9 hours. When it finally ended, 40 coalition ships were destroyed. Another 30 were damaged badly enough to need extensive repairs. The human fleet was completely destroyed. Every station was either captured or reduced to debris. By standard military calculations, the coalition had won a decisive victory. But Belthar felt no sense of triumph. He stood on his bridge looking at the casualty reports. Over 15,000 coalition crew dead, 3 times that number wounded, against a technologically inferior force that should have been crushed in minutes. "Sir, we're receiving transmissions from Earth," the communications officer reported. "It's a message on all frequencies. Play it," a human voice spoke. It was calm and cold. "This is Earth Command to all coalition forces. You came to our home. You attacked our people. You thought we would surrender. You were wrong. This is just the beginning. We will make you regret ever finding us." The transmission ended. Belthar ordered the fleet to pull back to a safe distance while they regrouped. As the ships moved away from Earth's orbit, he noticed something on the long-range sensors. More human ships were gathering near Mars. Reinforcements from outer colonies were jumping into the system. The humans weren't done. They were preparing for the next battle. That night, in his private quarters, Belthar tried to sleep. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw human ships flying directly at him, pilots screaming defiance even as they died. He saw soldiers fighting with broken bodies. He heard that cold voice from Earth. This is just the beginning. For 300 years, sleep had come easily. Warriors who had seen everything and won every fight didn't fear dreams. But that night, Belthar lay awake until morning, staring at the ceiling of his quarters. Something had changed. The humans had done more than destroy ships. They had planted a seed of doubt in his mind. He kept thinking about Admiral Yuna's words, "You should fear us." At the time, he had dismissed them as bravado. Now he understood. She hadn't been making a threat. She had been giving him a warning he had ignored. The next day, Belthar called a meeting with his senior officers. "We need reinforcements," he told them. "Send a request to the council. We need more ships, more soldiers, more supplies." "But sir, we won the battle," one officer protested. Belthar looked at him with eyes that had seen things that would haunt him forever. "No, we survived it. There's a difference." Belthar spent the next 3 weeks doing something he had never done before. He studied his enemy instead of just fighting them. The coalition fleet held position at a neutral station while waiting for reinforcements. During that time, Velthar locked himself in his quarters with every piece of information about Earth and humans he could find. The species files painted a picture that disturbed him more with each detail. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They chased prey animals for hours or even days until the target collapsed from exhaustion. Their bodies were built for endurance, not speed or strength. On their home planet, they were not the biggest or strongest predators. They were something worse. They were the ones who never gave up. Their history was even more troubling. From the moment humans discovered agriculture 10,000 years ago, they had been at war with each other, not occasional conflicts like most species experienced. Constant, endless warfare. They fought over land. They fought over resources. They fought over ideas and beliefs. They invented new and better ways to kill each other with each generation. One file made Velthar stop reading and stare at his screen for several minutes. During their 20th century, humans had developed nuclear weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. Instead of banning such weapons or using them carefully, they built thousands of them. Two major human nations pointed these weapons at each other for decades in something they called the Cold War. They were willing to end their own species rather than surrender to each other. Madness, Velthar muttered. Complete madness, but it wasn't madness. That was what scared him. The humans understood exactly what they were doing. They just valued their freedom and pride more than their own survival. Any species willing to risk extinction rather than submit would never surrender to an outside force. Velthar, requested to speak with the human defector the Coalition had captured months earlier. Dr. Jiwan had left Earth seeking peace. She disagreed with human military aggression and wanted to help broker peace between her species and the Coalition. The guards brought her to a secure meeting room. She was small like all humans, with dark hair starting to show gray streaks. She sat down across from Velthar without being asked. That casual confidence bothered him. Even defectors from other species showed proper respect to Coalition commanders. "You wanted to see me?" Jiwan asked. "I need to understand your people. Why do you fight the way you do? Why sacrifice ships and lives when retreat makes more sense?" Jiwan smiled sadly. "Because that's what we are. You know what humans did on Earth before space travel? We climbed mountains that killed people just to see the top. We sailed across oceans in wooden boats without knowing what was on the other side. We went to war knowing we might die but fighting anyway for causes we believed in. We're not logical like you. We're stubborn. Stubborn gets you killed. Sometimes. But it also keeps you alive when logic says you should be dead. Humans survived ice ages that should have wiped us out. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars, famines, disasters, and our own stupidity. You want to know our secret? We refuse to accept when we're beaten." Velthar leaned back in his chair. His claws drummed on the table. "The Coalition has superior technology and more ships. Mathematics says we will win eventually. Mathematics don't account for the human factor. We're persistence hunters, Commander. We evolved by running prey to death. Now you're the prey, and we will chase you until one of us collapses." Jiwan's expression turned serious. "I left Earth because I wanted peace. I hoped we could find common ground with other species. But you attacked us first. You killed our people. Now there's no going back. Every human alive wants revenge, and we're very, very good at revenge." After the meeting, Velthar went to the detention level. Coalition forces had captured several human prisoners during the battle. Most were injured and recovering in medical cells, but one prisoner had been held in interrogation for 40 days. His name was Tayang. He was a young soldier, maybe 30 years old in human terms. The interrogators had tried every method short of torture to make him talk. He said nothing. Velthar entered the cell. Tayang sat on the floor, back against the wall. He looked thin and tired. 40 days of questioning with minimal sleep would break most people, but his eyes were still clear and focused. "I am Commander Velthar. The interrogators tell me you refuse to cooperate." Tayang looked at him for a long moment. Then he spoke in a rough voice. "I have nothing to say to you. We treat prisoners well. You could have better food, better conditions, even communication with other prisoners. All you have to do is answer questions about human military deployments." "No? Why? You must know you cannot win this war. The Coalition is too large, too powerful. Your resistance only causes more human deaths." Tayang actually laughed. It was a harsh, bitter sound. "You don't get it. You think this is about winning or losing. It's not. It's about making you pay for every meter of space you take. It's about making this war so bloody and costly that you regret ever attacking us, Ingsir. That is foolish. Casualties don't change strategic realities. Maybe not. But they change will. How many soldiers are you willing to lose, Commander? How many ships? How many years of war? Because we already know our answer. All of them. Every human. Every ship. However long it takes. We've already decided we're willing to pay any price. Velthar felt something twist in his chest. It was fear. Real, actual fear. This young human, imprisoned and powerless, terrified him more than enemy fleets or powerful weapons. Because Tayang meant every word. He wasn't posturing or bluffing. He was simply stating facts as he understood them. You're insane, Velthar whispered. No, we just know something you don't. Tayang smiled. We've already won. Velthar left the cell quickly. That night he had nightmares. In his dreams, waves of humans kept coming at him. He killed them, but more appeared. Endless. Unstoppable. He woke up with his scales slick with fear sweat. The Coalition High Council called an emergency meeting. They had decided on a new strategy. 1,000 ships would gather for a massive strike on Earth. They would overwhelm human defenses with pure numbers and end the war quickly. Velthar attended the meeting via hologram. This is a mistake, he told the council. We need to study the humans more. Understand their psychology. Find a way to negotiate. Negotiate? Thelzar's antennae waved angrily. They destroyed our fleets. They refuse all peace offers. We tried your way, Commander. Now we do it our way, the council voted. The attack would proceed. 1,000 ships. It would be the largest military operation in Coalition history. Velthar was ordered to take command of the fleet. He accepted because he had no choice. But deep inside he knew they were making a terrible mistake. As preparations began, Velthar kept thinking about something Jiwan had said. Now you're the prey. He had spent 300 years as a predator. The hunter. The conqueror. The idea that he might be prey instead felt wrong. Unnatural. But when he closed his eyes, he saw Tayang smile. He heard Yuna's certainty. He remembered human ships flying at him without fear, and he knew the truth even if he couldn't say it out loud. The hunters had become the hunted. 1,000 Coalition warships emerged from faster-than-light travel in a sphere formation around Earth's orbit. It was the largest military fleet ever assembled. The combined firepower could destroy entire planets. Velthar stood on his flagship's bridge watching the tactical display with growing unease. Sir, scanning the system now, the sensor officer reported. Strange readings. Most human military assets have withdrawn to Mars and beyond. Earth itself shows minimal defensive positions. Velthar felt his scales ripple. Something was wrong. Humans didn't retreat. They fought to the last ship, the last soldier, the last bullet. Why would they abandon their homeworld? Full sensor sweep. Check for cloaked vessels, hidden weapons platforms, anything unusual. The sensors found nothing obvious. Earth sat below them with only light defenses. A few orbital stations. Some patrol craft. The human fleet had pulled back to outer system positions. Several Coalition commanders celebrated, believing the humans had finally accepted they couldn't win. They're running, one admiral said over the command channel. We broke them. No, Velthar said quietly. This is wrong. They're planning something, but the council had given orders. The fleet was to secure Earth orbit and force unconditional surrender. Velthar commanded the ships forward. As they approached low orbit, warning alarms suddenly screamed across every vessel. The planet itself erupted with weapons fire. Hidden mass drivers launched tungsten rods at near light speed. Concealed orbital platforms activated and fired nuclear missiles. The surface, seemingly peaceful, was actually covered in camouflaged weapon emplacements. Millions of humans had remained behind as volunteers, manning defenses built into the planet's infrastructure. Evasive action. Velthar shouted, but it was too late for many ships. The first wave of kinetic strikes punched through shields and hulls like paper. A battle cruiser near the fleet center took 3 tungsten rods through its reactor core. The explosion lit up the space around Earth like a new sun. Civilian ships emerged from behind the moon and asteroids. Converted mining vessels, cargo haulers, even private yachts, all of them armed with whatever weapons humans could mount. They flew directly at Coalition warships in swarm tactics. One converted mining ship, piloted by someone named Sora, broadcast a final message as it accelerated toward the Coalition flagship. For Earth. For every world you conquered. We remember them all. The mining ship was packed with antimatter charges. Velthar's crew managed to destroy it before impact, but the explosion at close range crippled 3 nearby destroyers. More converted civilian ships followed the same tactic. Suicide runs, kamikaze attacks, humans using their own vessels as weapons. They turned the entire planet into a weapon, Velthar's tactical officer said in horror. The civilians are fighting us. The battle became chaos. Coalition ships tried to pull back, but human defenses created a kill zone around Earth. Orbital stations exploded when damaged, taking nearby enemy ships with them. One station, defended by a single young soldier named Nari, held out for 6 hours against boarding teams. She was found dead, surrounded by 30 coalition soldiers she had killed alone. Velthar tried to coordinate the fleet, but human tactics made organization impossible. They attacked from every direction at once. They used the planet's gravity and magnetic field to their advantage. They sacrificed positions to lure coalition ships into traps. It was warfare conducted by a species that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing. "Sir, we have breaches on decks 7, 12, and 15, his security chief reported. "Human boarding teams, what? How did they get through our shields?" "They attached to the hull when we passed through debris fields. They've been hiding on our ship for hours." Velthar grabbed his weapon and ran toward the nearest breach point. His elite guards followed. They found human soldiers fighting through the corridors. The humans wore simple armor and carried ballistic weapons. Against powered armor and energy shields, they should have been helpless. Instead, they fought with terrifying efficiency. They used the ship's layout against the defenders. They set traps. They ambushed from side passages. One human team used grenades to breach into the engineering deck and tried to sabotage the reactor. Velthar's guards stopped them, but just barely. The fighting moved through the ship toward the bridge. Velthar set up a defensive position with his best soldiers. They had energy shields, advanced weapons, and superior numbers. The humans would never break through. Then Admiral Yuna walked around the corner. She wore damaged combat armor and carried 2 pistols. Behind her, a dozen human soldiers moved in perfect coordination. Velthar recognized this as a military strike team. Yuna had escaped coalition custody months ago. Now she had come back not as a prisoner but as an attacker. "Hello, Commander," Yuna said calmly. "Remember me? How did you get on my ship? We've been here for 2 days, hiding, waiting, studying your patterns. You're very predictable." She gestured to his guards. "Your soldiers can try to stop us, but we both know how this ends. I'd prefer to avoid more bloodshed. You're surrounded, outgunned. You cannot win this fight." Yuna smiled. It was the same smile from their first meeting. Confident, certain. "We already won, Commander. Look at your tactical display." Velthar glanced at a nearby screen. The fleet status made his blood run cold. 600 coalition ships destroyed or disabled. The remaining 400 were trying to retreat but taking heavy damage. In orbit around Earth, human reinforcements were arriving. Ships from Mars, from Jupiter's moons, from colonies across the solar system. Fresh vessels with full weapons and eager crews. "This was all a trap," Velthar said quietly. "You baited us here." "Yes, we knew you'd bring a massive fleet to end this quickly. We knew you'd see Earth's weak defenses as an opportunity. We counted on your arrogance." Yuna walked closer, her weapons still pointed down. "You came here to conquer us. Instead, you gave us the chance to destroy the largest military force the Coalition has ever assembled. We will rebuild. Send more ships. The Coalition is vast, and we're going to tear it apart. Our fleets are already mobilizing toward Coalition space. We're not coming to conquer. We're coming to liberate every species you've enslaved. We're going to free them all, and we're going to make sure you never threaten anyone again." Velthar felt something break inside him. Not his body, his spirit. For 300 years he had been the hunter, the predator, the undefeated warrior. Now he stood on his own bridge facing a human female half his size, and he knew with absolute certainty that she was right. The Coalition had lost. Not just this battle. The entire war. Yuna holstered her weapons. "I'm not going to kill you, Commander. I want you to live. I want you to go back to your council and tell them what happened here. Tell them what it costs to fight humans. Tell them that we don't forgive and we never forget." She turned and led her team back toward the breach point. Coalition soldiers could have shot her, should have shot her, but no one moved. They just watched the humans leave, disappearing into the damaged corridors like ghosts. Velthar ordered the fleet to retreat. What remained of it jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving Earth behind. As his flagship limped away, he looked back at the blue planet one final time. It looked so peaceful, so harmless. But he knew the truth now. That beautiful world was home to the most dangerous species in the galaxy, and they were coming. 3 years had passed since the Battle of Earth. Velthar stood in a diplomatic conference room on a neutral station, waiting for the human delegation to arrive. His hands shook slightly. They always shook now. The doctors said it was a psychological condition. Humans called it post-traumatic stress disorder. Whatever the name, Velthar knew what it meant. He was broken. The coalition had fallen apart after Earth. Many conquered species, seeing humans win against impossible odds, rebelled. Human fleets arrived to help those rebellions, and the coalition couldn't stop them. World after world broke free. The Kryn Empire, once spanning hundreds of systems, now controlled only their home territory. The great coalition that had ruled the galaxy for millennia had crumbled in 3 years. Velthar was no longer a commander. He had been demoted to advisor after the disaster at Earth. Now his job was to help negotiate peace terms. It was humiliating work for someone who had once been called the undefeated. But he had no choice. The alternative was extinction. Humans had made that very clear. The door opened. Human negotiators entered the room. Velthar recognized some of them. Tayang, the young soldier who had spent 40 days in interrogation refusing to talk, was now a commander. He wore a military uniform with medals on his chest. Dr. Jiwan was there too, having returned to humanity after the war turned. She looked older but satisfied. The lead negotiator was someone new, Ambassador Hajun. He was middle-aged with gray starting to show in his black hair. He moved with calm confidence and smiled politely as he sat down across from Velthar. Commander Velthar, thank you for meeting with us. I am not a commander anymore. Just Velthar. We know, but we remember who you were. The undefeated, 300 years of victories. That deserves respect even from enemies. They spent several hours going over treaty terms. The coalition would withdraw from all conquered territories. They would pay reparations to species they had enslaved. They would join a new galactic council, where all species had equal representation. The terms were harsh but fair. Humans could have demanded total surrender and genocide. Instead, they offered peace. Why? Velthar asked during a break. You won. You could destroy us completely. Why offer these terms? Hajun considered the question carefully. Because we're not conquerors. We fought you because you attacked us first. We freed other species because they deserved freedom. But we don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to make sure no one can do to others what you did to us. You say that now, but power corrupts. Once you have control, you will become like us, maybe. But we'll try not to. That's the best anyone can do. The negotiations continued for 3 days. On the final evening, Velthar and Hajun met privately. Velthar had requested the meeting. There was something he needed to say, something that had been eating at him for 3 years. I want to tell you something, Velthar said. A confession. Hajun sat quietly, waiting. I have fought for 300 years. I have faced every kind of warrior the galaxy has produced. The Vraxian berserkers who feel no pain and fight until their bodies literally fall apart. The hive mind of Centauri that thinks faster than light and predicts every move before you make it. The energy beings of the Lumen who can pass through solid matter and strike from any direction.
I defeated them all.
I studied their tactics, learned their weaknesses, and beat them. Velthar's hands trembled as he continued. But you humans, you terrified me. Not because you were stronger or smarter or faster, because you refused to accept reality. Every other species, when faced with certain defeat, surrenders. It is logical. It preserves life and allows for future opportunities. But humans look at certain defeat and say no. You fight anyway. You die anyway, and somehow, impossibly, you win anyway. We just refuse to give up, Hajun said quietly. It is more than that. You make the impossible happen through sheer refusal to quit. You turn mathematics and logic into lies by refusing to accept what they say. I have spent 3 years trying to understand it. I think I finally do. You are not warriors. You are survivors. And survivors will do absolutely anything to stay alive. Hajun nodded slowly. We learned a long time ago that the universe doesn't care about us. Stars explode. Planets die. Species go extinct. The universe is indifferent to suffering, so we stopped asking permission to exist. We just exist despite everything. Maybe that's what you never understood, Velthar. We're not special or magical. We just refuse to quit no matter what. That makes you the most dangerous species in the galaxy. I know. We frighten ourselves sometimes. Velthar felt tears forming in his eyes. In 300 years he had never cried. Warriors didn't cry. But he was not a warrior anymore. He was just a broken old soldier who had finally met something he couldn't defeat. I cannot sleep, he whispered. Every night I see your ships flying at me. I see your soldiers fighting with broken bodies. I hear your voices saying you will never surrender. I'm afraid all the time now. Afraid of shadows. Afraid of silence. Afraid of my own thoughts. You did not just defeat me on the battlefield. You broke something inside me that can never be fixed. Hajun reached across the table and did something unexpected. He put his hand on Velthar's arm. The gesture was gentle, almost kind. I'm sorry, Hajun said. War breaks everyone it touches. Winners and losers both. If it helps at all, many of our soldiers have the same nightmares. They see the coalition ships they destroyed. They remember the enemies they killed. War leaves scars that never heal. Does it get better? Sometimes. With time and help, you should talk to someone. A therapist. Someone who understands trauma. The treaty was signed the next day. Coalition representatives agreed to all terms. The war was officially over. Humans would withdraw their fleets but maintain a military presence to ensure compliance. The galaxy would rebuild under new rules where conquest and slavery were forbidden. Velthar retired to a remote world far from any conflict zones. He spent his days writing. His memoirs would serve as a warning to future generations. He titled it, The Species That Made Me Tremble. In the introduction he wrote, If you ever encounter the species called humans, remember this. They are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest. But they are the most dangerous because they taught themselves that death is just another obstacle to overcome. In 300 years of warfare, I learned to fear only one thing, a human who has nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. One evening, sitting on his porch watching the sunset, Velthar received a transmission. It was from Earth, a message sent to all former coalition worlds. He played it on his datapad. The message showed human colony ships launching into deep space. Hundreds of them. Families aboard. Scientists, engineers, explorers. They were heading toward unexplored regions of the galaxy, spreading out, growing, expanding. The transmission ended with a simple statement. Humanity thanks the galactic community for the peace. We look forward to meeting new species as friends and partners. We go in peace, but we never forget. The stars are calling us and we answer. Velthar turned off the pad and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were spreading across the galaxy. They would meet new species. Some would be friends. Others might be enemies. But Velthar knew one thing with absolute certainty. No matter what they found among the stars, humanity would survive. Because that was what they did. They survived everything. They overcame everything. They refused to accept defeat even from the universe itself. And the galaxy would never be the same.